over to you, and the stage is yours.
Good. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. My name is Phil Martucci, and I am the Director of Content and Channels, Enterprise Content and Channels at Novartis, based in Basel, Switzerland. So I'm very happy you all have joined this morning to hear this conversation, this discussion about how we brought 150,000 people in our company onto the same communication channel, the same intranet. And I'll talk through a couple things. First and foremost, about our digital ecosystem and where our intranet fits within that ecosystem. I'll talk a little bit about what it means to move to pull communications from push communications, and then we'll talk a little bit about our intranet, and I'll show you how that fits within the ecosystem and our strategy, and I'll show you some screenshots as well. So at any time, please, raise your hand, put questions into the chat. I'm going to try to monitor the chat and the slides, but Volker or Nina, if something comes in and you want to interrupt, please do so. Keep this pretty informal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just one note, please double click on either the slides or Philip to see either the slides or Philip enlarged. I will stay on stage because I'm sharing the slides for Philip. So that's the reason why you see me as well.
Great. So in the case that not everyone knows what Novartis is, I just spent 30 seconds on us as a company. So we are a global pharmaceutical company based in Basel, Switzerland. We have 150,000 employees worldwide. Our products are sold in 155 countries. We touch more than 750 million patients a year in total. And a portion of that is us reaching out and providing access to medicines to those individuals who cannot afford medicines. It's a big part of our strategy, is access to medicine. Altogether, our overall priority is to reimagine medicine for patients. And so that is our business. That is what we try to do every day. So within the context of that, those 150,000 employees, we set out about 2.5 years ago to redo our intranet. And before we did that, we wanted to do some research to figure out what exactly do our people want in an intranet. And they told us very clearly two things. They want an intranet to give them quick access to the things they need to do their job. And they want an intranet that gives them a highly relevant view of what's happening at Novartis. And it cuts through the noise. I think all of us in communications know that that is a big issue right now, right? People are getting messages from everywhere, from intranet, from managers, from social media, from their phones, email, and it's really overwhelming. And so we kept this in mind when we created this, and I'll show you a little bit about how that looks in a minute. So with these two things in mind, Volker, if you slip to the next slide, our digital ecosystem overall includes many different things. This is like our Saturn planet slide, I like to call. But essentially, this blue circle includes our enterprise channels. And when I say enterprise channels, I mean for Novartis overall. Yeah. Sometimes we have channels that live in our countries that they use on a local level. But these channels show the ones that we use for Novartis globally. And you see that within this ecosystem, we have One Novartis, our intranet. We have SharePoint and Wisdom, which is actually what our intranet is built on. We have Microsoft Teams, which was not slated to be launched until fall of this year, until now, but we accelerated it back in March to take advantage of our ecosystem and get it out there, of course, with COVID. We use Populo as well for email distribution and measurement. And then as you can see, we also use Yammer as an internal social media tool, and of course we use Outlook for email. The other part of this slide shows our measurement tools. So a lot of times our channels are in fact measurement tools. But we also have two tools that help us to measure some of those channels, but they're standalone. So Google Analytics, of course, and tyGraph we use for measuring Yammer and Yammer engagement. So that's a look overall at our ecosystem. And so with the next slide, I can get into a little bit about our vision for communications. So like I said, we are moving to pull communications from push communications, simply because we want to empower our associates to be more effective at their jobs and then to inspire them to foster this sense of unity. So these are the three pillars of that. We want to inform our people, we want them to engage, and we also want them to collaborate. So these are the three pillars of our communication strategy. And if you flip to the next slide, there is definitely overlap in our mix of channels. So we have some channels that do one or two of the pillars really well, and then you have others that have other strengths, right? So you can see, of course, that for us, One Novartis is a great tool to inform people about something. Oh, we lost the slide. Okay, there it's back. One Novartis is a great tool to inform our employees about what's happening around the business. Yammer is a great way for them to engage, right? To engage with social commentary, to have discussions. And then Microsoft Teams actually introduces another form of communication, and that's collaborating, right? That's building documents together, it's editing, it's sharing. It does something completely different than the others. So we are, as anyone, trying to figure out how these all work together. We have a pretty good idea, but as you can imagine, it kind of changes every day. These tools also, they get new features, new functionality that we have to take into consideration. So I want to just spend a little bit of time on the next slide discussing why pull strategy is something that we're moving to. You may or may not know this term, this phrase, but essentially what we want to do is empower our associates to choose what they see. We want them to decide the best content they want to see and in the best way, right? The best channels. And we want that to mirror their experience outside of Novartis, right? On Facebook, on Instagram, on your email, your personal email, you choose what you want to see. Yeah. And we want it to be the same experience. No more do we want to just keep bombarding employees with emails about whatever, anything, right? We sent a lot of emails in the past. And as you can see, we've done some measurement, and for us internally, 28% of our employees' workdays are spent managing emails. 115 emails a day is on average what our people receive. And we actually found a statistic as well that about 60 to 70% of emails that come in are one-to-one emails. So they're not even emails from one to many, they're one-to-one. And that can work very well in teams, right? So what we're trying to do is get people to use the right tool for the right type of communication. So again,
So Philip, there is one question. When did you do the last survey? So the 28, I believe the question on the 28% workday.
Yeah.
Email.
So we did this measurement about April, May of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So again, we believe that more information being inundated with emails and all these messages, that does not equal value, right? And this is something we have to get our leaders used to because they're not used to that. They want to see numbers, right? They want to see how many people opened the email, how many people read the item. And we have those numbers, we have that data. But what we're seeing is that the second item on the slide, we want to focus on quality engagement. We actually don't care anymore how many people opened the email. We want to see how many people read the email, clicked on the email, and took action. We find that is weighted much more heavily. But this is some of the change management we're doing with our leadership, because it's a different way of thinking for them. But I think all of you know, when you send a global mass mail out to all of your employees, our tools currently only measure who opens and if they click, but it doesn't tell you how long they spent reading it, right? It doesn't tell you if they skimmed it or if they actually spent 2 minutes on it. So we're trying very hard to make this shift. The third thing here on this slide is that we want one source of truth, right? So using pull channels allows you to make updates in the moment as things are happening. And if employees have used those channels to determine what are the channels I want to see, then they get that in real time as well. And it provides more opportunities to cross-pollinate among many channels. The last point here is leveraging blurred lines. So I think all of you know that internal and external communications are essentially one and the same now, and we are going through the same thing at Novartis. So in the past, we've always been organized, actually, internal comms, external comms. And what we're finding is that, we've been saying for a while, oh, there's a blend. Yeah, they mesh together. But now, actually, we're moving more heavily into that way. So, for instance, we look at LinkedIn now as an internal channel, right? Because a lot of our employees are on there and they're discussing and collaborating in the same ways that they do with our pure internal channels. So it's something that we consider as well. We just launched an @Novartis Life Instagram account. We consider that an internal communication channel because it's targeted to our employees. So with that leveraged blurred lines, you have even more opportunity for employees to choose the type of content they want to see. So with that, I'll talk a little bit now about our intranet, which is called One Novartis. So with this slide, this is some of the work we set out to do. We said, okay, we can have great bells and whistles. It can look really pretty. It can do all these fancy things. But how do we want it to feel? Yeah. How do we want people to react when they start using it? And these are just some of the things that we said. We wanted people to say, wow, I actually found what I needed using our search. Or I'm seeing content that is relevant to me. Because a lot of times people are like, I tune out because there's not a lot of content that's relevant for me as an individual. And when you have so many employees as we do in so many countries, trying to find relevancy for an employee is really difficult, right? So you have to have people helping you on the back end. I'll talk about that. I can see our priorities in action. In the past, we had 9 different intranets. Now we have 1, and everyone essentially is on the same page. They see the same strategic content of how we are helping patients and how we're achieving our objectives for the first time ever. I can see what's happening in other divisions and externally, right? So it's giving them a way to see what's happening around Novartis. And of course, they feel connected to what's happening on their mobile devices as well. That was very important, of course, for us. So with the next slide, we talk about, what does it actually give us, though? And we think about it in three ways. So for our associates, One Novartis, a new intranet really will foster this sense of pride. Right? It'll give you this view into Novartis that you may not be getting elsewhere. For leaders, actually, it amplifies their voices, right? We take a lot of time and resource into developing our leaders to be strong leaders, to be social leaders. And what this does is it allows their voices to be amplified so that employees can more readily hear them. And then for communicators, the best thing about it, being a communicator, is that it allows us to focus on what's most important. So no longer do our communicators have to think about, okay, what channel am I going to use? When should I do it? How do I get the logistics done? Rather, they can focus on creating amazing content. And we know that that is the most important thing. If you have great content, people will come to it. So that's a view into, for our stakeholders, how we kind of outlined summarizing what it will give us. So with the next slide, key features. This is essentially a one-slide summary of all the things that One Novartis gives us. So like I said, it gives us better line of sight to how we reimagine medicine. So employees in China and Japan and Egypt are seeing the same global messages as our colleagues in the US, in Switzerland. And that is, again, for the first time, everyone is coming together to see how that works, to see how we're doing, how we're participating in COVID-19, the search for a vaccine, how we are, launching drones in sub-Saharan Africa to get medicine to people in villages that can't actually get to the hospital, right? So for the first time ever, everyone globally gets to see that really good content. It's fully personalized and targeted, so individuals automatically see content that's relevant to them based on where they sit in the business, what division are they in, what function, what country, and even what site they're in. They automatically get that. But what they can do is they can add more. So, for example, if I'm based here in Switzerland, but I guess I used to travel frequently to the US, I can actually see US content. I tell the system, you know what, show me Switzerland, but also show me the US because it's important to me. I travel there frequently. And that's one example, right? And we have it divided into channels. We call all of these things channels: the US channel, the Switzerland channel, the oncology channel, or the digital channel. And there are 190 of these channels that people can choose from. And there are 250 content creators around the globe. These are mainly communicators, but also some people not in communications. They create content, they target it to these channels, and then individuals get to see that content. This is what I meant earlier when I said you have to have a good group of people behind you. So we consider these individuals, these communicators, these are content creators, and they're doing this every day, right? We have over 1,000 new news posts per day in total, targeted, of course. So it's not like I'm going on and seeing 1,000 different, right? I'm seeing the ones that I've chosen to see. Like I said, one of the things that was important to us is to keep this blend going of internal and external content. So while most of the content on One Novartis is internal, we also have an area that is basically pulling in our external content as well. It dynamically pulls in our social media posts from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We have lots of different channels that exist there. And it also pulls in, of course, our press releases as they happen in real time, because we were getting into a space where sometimes our employees would hear news about Novartis externally first before they heard about it internally. So we wanted to fix that, right? We wanted to allow our employees to see what was happening exactly as it was happening. So that was important for us. Social features and direct connection to Yammer. Yammer is our internal social media channel of choice. We continue to use it. We have lots of engagement on Yammer. We have lots of content, even to the point where sometimes I wish Yammer as a tool had a little bit better features or relevancy model. But we do use it, and it was important for us to connect to it. So we pull in Yammer right into our homepage. We do it in a curated way. So it's not just every few seconds it's changing. I have someone on my team who looks across all of Yammer and pulls really great posts from regular employees, from leaders, and we put those on the homepage so people can see them. Of course, it's responsive design, so it's available on mobile devices, which is really important for people who don't sit at a desk, who don't have a laptop. We have several thousand employees who work in manufacturing sites. They don't have laptops, but this allows them to stay connected on their mobile device. It's fully measurable using Google. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we have so many questions
Okay.
in the chat. I just wanted to make a little bit timekeeping. So I know that there are 3 slides coming up. I would make them quite quick and go
Okay.
into the
Okay. Great. Okay.
questions, if
So,
that is fine.
fully measurable using Google Analytics, which I can talk about if you want more. And like I said, this is excuse me. This is built on SharePoint Modern. And we have a layer on top from a company called Live Tiles. They used to be called Wisdom, which essentially helps you make sense of SharePoint, which is not that easy to use. So with that, we can flip over to the next slide. So this is essentially how we did it. Again, I feel like 2.5 years of work onto one slide is kind of crazy, but some of the highlights, we had a very strong partnership with IT, which of course is very important. We led the project. IT supported us. That's important. IT should not lead an intranet project. We had a user-focused content strategy that was always asking the questions, what is best for the user? We don't want there to be multiple places to find policies. There should be one, and they should know where to go to get it. That's one example. We had amazing change management and comms, which of course goes across the entire company. Change management for leaders, for regular associates, for communicators. We were able to leverage quite a few of our leaders as champions of this, which was great. We had a very dynamic and diverse team, and we gave ourselves the freedom to dream about what was possible. But of course, within reason, right? We had to be realistic about what we could actually achieve. And I say here at the bottom that behavior was the true star, because I actually truly believe that something like this can only happen in the way it did for us if you have a small team. It can't be a giant team where you need to get approvals and you have to bring it to 15 people to approve before you can move forward. You need to have a small team that you can move quickly, you can make decisions, and you have to know that it's not going to be perfect. Yeah. In pharmaceuticals, we have a lot of perfectionists. It's required, you know, making medicines have to be perfect. And a lot of that behavior bleeds into other areas of the business. For something like this, we knew that if we tried to achieve perfection, we wouldn't get there. So we decided we're going to do it, and we're going to do minimum viable product with regular releases over time so that we could actually one day get to a perfect solution, but it wasn't going to be on day one. So the next slide is my last one. It basically is just giving you some visuals of what our intranet looks like. I would love to be able to share the current intranet with you in real time this morning, but I've gone on, you know, it's difficult to think about sharing some internal content and news. But what I've done is I've given you a view into our homepage, the way we use some really great visuals and imagery. This first item is talking about our medicine for spinal muscular atrophy, which is a medicine that helps treat babies with a very kind of very horrible disease. So this is talking about our commitment to the FDA. And then you see down below, this is my news. So these are the things that I get to choose, right? Now, like I said, everyone receives certain channels, but I can choose others. And each one's labeled. So you have a global item, or you have one for oncology or digital. We also have featured voices, which is Yammer, right? I was saying. So on the homepage, this is a curated look at really great social content. Of course, Voss, our CEO, he appears there a lot because he does some really great content. And then we also try very hard to just, you know, pick regular employees who are posting content. On the top right, you can see a view into that external page. It's changed a little bit somewhat since I took this screenshot, but this is where you can see and choose which social feeds you want to view. So Novartis, Instagram, Facebook, etc. This changes dynamically, this page, as things happen. They get posted in real time. And then at the bottom right, this is the last piece. This is what we're calling the power panel. And this is always following you on the left-hand side. And this is the part that gives you quick access to the things you need to do your job. So you can see here, everyone sees these set of global links. Yeah, these are to things like the HR system, to book travel, to look for another job. All of these things are global. Everyone sees them. As you move down, you see with division and function and location, we've targeted these things. So this is showing me links for the communications group, of which I'm a part of. And then in location, it's showing me Switzerland and Basel. If you're in the US and our big site there, you'll see US links and the site links. So it's dynamic in that it knows where you are. So that is a view into our intranet.
Perfect.
I know that's very quick, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Perfect. Regarding intranet demo, they are a bit tricky. We have some a little in the afternoon coming up. But what we can do also is for the Atradera members, we can set up, for example, a online session, as we had so many since COVID hit, and do in a closed group, for example, an intranet demo. I hope, Philip, you would be on that, but I would assume because you did them already on the physical meetings as well. So happy to organize that. We have so many questions. I would ask you, actually, for those who had questions, Ladina, Scott, Alex, Claudia, maybe to turn on your webcam and your microphone and we bring you on stage. I think it's always better if you ask the question directly. Otherwise, of course, I'm happy also to read the question for you. But let's check out first who would like to come on stage to us and ask the question. Alex. So I think it takes just a few seconds. For those who would like to come on stage, just click the share video and share audio.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Alex.
This is Alex. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, everything
great
is
presentation. I have two questions, Philip. The first one is, did you shut down the old existing legacy intranets after launching the new one?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we did. So we had about 85,000 pages that made up our old legacy intranets, of which there were 9 in total. So 85,000 pages. And one of the key value propositions for this was that we always said we would shut those down, right? And that's a big job. And actually, we're in the process of finishing that off. It will be done by the end of this year. But yes, it very much was an exercise. We're not going to just create something new and leave all the old stuff out there. We needed to get rid of that as well. So it's a great cleanup exercise, but it does take some time to make sure people are looking at that content, making sure that it's okay for it to go away. So yes.
Okay. Thank you. My second question is, how do you manage the global content you mentioned during your presentation published in several languages? And I was thinking about that when you were talking about the employees in Egypt and China. How do you manage global content being published in languages like Chinese and Arabic in a decent, not with very much time delay to English?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
It is a challenge, I will say that. At Novartis, we focus on 8 languages because that covers about 93% of our employees. So we don't translate to, 20, 30 languages. Where we have the opportunity, and when I say that, I mean where we have the time, we do translate our content and we make it available in those different languages. But of course, in some instances, we don't have the time, right? If it's if it's an announcement that maybe it was embargoed for a while before it became public, we can't do the translation. In those instances, locally, so in Japan, in China, in Canada and France, we have individuals who can do that for us, in communications. So it's not perfect, right? You might have a global news item posted only in English for a period of 6 hours, 12 hours, so we try very hard to do it, but sometimes it's just not possible. We are looking into bringing in an automatic translation feature. Currently, if you're using the Chrome browser at Novartis, that feature is there and it lives there. But we're not really allowed to publicize that that's available because Google has different terms and conditions with translating. So in lieu of an automatic translation system, we have to do manual for now, but it is something that's on our list of features for the future. Yeah.
I know that there are some in the room who have automatic translation if somebody is interested. Peter Hefner, for example, who made up, by the way, also a room on Power Platform. If somebody has questions, just go into that room in the Sessions tab and post something, and then Peter will respond to that. But I know they have, for example, auto translation. I think some others as well turned on already. Ladina had a question. Actually, all the others seem to be shy to share their webcam. It would be great if you do so, but of course I can read the question as well. Is how do you reach frontline workers?
So we have basically two classifications of frontline workers that we consider. So we have people who are in sales. Yeah. So these are people who they have laptops actually, but they're out selling all day. So they're not on their laptops, they're on their phones or their iPads. And then we have manufacturing employees, right? So people who are on a manufacturing line in a factory. So for those two groups in particular, for sales, they again have access to One Novartis on their devices. It works very well on their devices, and they access it just like they would any other application that they use during the day. For manufacturing employees, for frontline workers, they have a couple different options. So I see that some individuals are putting in the chat, do we give devices to all of our employees? No, we don't. We have two different types of Novartis devices. We have Novartis owned devices, so devices that Novartis owns and they give to employees. And then we have BYO, right? Bring your own. Right, and which a lot of companies have, I think. Both of which allow you to access the Novartis network, via like a VPN on the phone. But not all manufacturing employees have this. They don't have a company-owned device, and they don't have a BYO device, although they can, right? If they have a phone or a device and they want to add the Novartis security to it, they certainly can do that. But not everybody does, right? So in this case, there is a small percentage of our employees that don't visit One Novartis every day. And there's a couple different things they can do. Of course, they can access via a kiosk, via a series of laptops in their working area. But also we ask manufacturing leaders, managers, to review once a week the content that has come onto One Novartis and share it at their weekly staff meetings. It's a little bit old school in how that happens, but it's not the case that everyone has access. You have to have that Novartis security on your phone, which not everyone wants, right?
I missed one question regarding the translation. Did you try Bing?
Yes, we did. We looked to use Bing, where it was like on the page, where you could translate on the page. But I think I have to check with my IT guys. But I think that Microsoft was not moving forward with that KPI, that API, sorry, for SharePoint Modern. So we decided not to go with it. I do know that there are other tools out there. In fact, when we went to Clariant not long ago, they used something that they loved that worked very well. It was a company out of France, I think. So we're looking at what we can do. We do actually have, our intranet is multilingual in that if you create content in a foreign language, you can see it in that language. So we have translated all of our mega menus, our labels, our categories. And if your browser is set to a certain language, it will show you in that language. So that's a great thing. But it is the content as well requires translation.
I have to check a little bit the timing, so we have to be quick in the answers and the questions, I think. But the good thing with that platform is on the left-hand side, you have the sessions where we can open up. Then there is one Q&A question session where maybe you can ask further questions then to Philip as well. And of course, we have the upcoming roundtable on intranet digital workplace and future of internal communications as well. But we have, I'm not so sure if John Paul wanted to come on stage because your screen is black, but at least we have Scott here. So Scott, let's go into your question first. But you are muted. You have to
be better at that
unmute
by
yourself.
now.
It's okay.
I've had months
Yeah,
to sort out mute,
perfect.
and I still can't work out how to. Clearly. Hi, Volker. Hi, Philip. It was a really interesting presentation now.
Hi.
And I work for a chemical company, and over the next few months, we're going to be redeveloping and launching our new intranet next year. So a lot of what you were saying really struck a chord there. And I think similar to you, we've got leaders spread around global sites, and we really want to encourage them to be more visible, more vocal. So what you said about amplifying leaders' voices was quite interesting. So I was just wondering if there's something you've considered in the design, in the functionality that makes it more intuitive for leaders to easily share their voices, or is it a separate discussion about how to get leaders up to speed with confidently sharing their thoughts?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's definitely not all of our leaders are great at communicating, right? They're not great at being social leaders. So there's a twofold thing. We needed to get some of them up to speed on how to do that effectively, and then we needed to get them onto the tool so that they could actually start using it. And I said that we have direct connection to Yammer. That is the place where we say, you know what, leaders, go there, create content. No longer should communicators be creating or drafting your content. You need to have the keys to do that yourself. So as they do that, we get a real-time view of it as it's coming in. And like I said, my team can curate some really strong voices there. But it also, in addition to that social piece, leaders get a chance when they come onto the homepage, they can see all of the content that's relevant for them. And they themselves then, if they open a piece of content, can comment on it, they can tag individuals, and it gives them a way to like actually start a conversation with communication or content that did not originate from them. Right? So you have Yammer, which allows them to start discussions and participate. But on One Novartis, you can have them providing context or their thoughts, their perspective on other things that are happening around business, so they can choose. And it takes a while. It wasn't like overnight everyone was, doing a great job at that. It definitely takes some time. But that's a key part of the success of this, is getting our leaders on there.
Yeah, thanks.
I want to bring in, before we go into the further discussion on the stage, on the panel, I would like to bring in the question from Rebecca, just that those who asked first on the chat are not missed as well. Is how do you make the global content creators feel responsible and take their tasks seriously? I think that was answered already if One Novartis is available on private mobile phones. But let's go first into the global content creators. How do you make them feel responsible?
They definitely, again, like anything else, it takes some change management. But they do, like I said, we have 250 content creators around the business. They're all focused on one area of the business, and that's their day-to-day job. And what we've said is that what One Novartis gives them is value. It gives them a place to actually create content and target it effectively. That didn't exist before. So for them, in order for them to be fully on board, you have to give them something that's valuable. So you have to ask them, what is it that they need? And they're not thinking in the global view. Yeah, they're thinking locally. So they know exactly what their people want to see locally. I mean, we've had our colleagues in Japan, I love them, but they said, listen, we don't want any of this if it's not in Japanese. So for them, it was very important for us to have those labels translated, to have it all there. They said their people just won't go there. But we heard that from all over. So if you can start to do that work and think about how you can, locally start to use that to build what you have. That's the only way it will work. You can't just build it in, I don't know, in your headquarters with a small team and expect people to start using it. Communicators or regular associates, you have to do that work up front to really determine what it is they're looking for. And then as it's starting to work, they can see metrics, they can see the data, they can see engagement, right? Before, they were only seeing how many people clicked on something. Now they can see that, but they can also see who's commenting, who's sharing it, how much time are they spending on this piece of content. That is more valuable than just clicks. So you have to give them value in it. I hope that answers.
Absolutely. Jean-Paul.
You're on mute.
But you're muted. You have to unmute yourself. You are muted in the Hopin app. Maybe a quick question in between until you unmute yourself. Does the new intranet run on SharePoint Online or SharePoint On-premise?
SharePoint Online, Office 365.
That I knew was a quick. Is the one Novartis interface available in all languages? I think you talked about the content already, but the interface is here the question. And Jean-Paul, I think it's the mute button inside of the Hopin environment.
We do have in multiple languages, like I said, our mega menu, our labels, the things where you see My News or featured voices, all of that is translated into our 8 main languages. Remember I said we focus on 8 that covers almost all of our employees. So that's what our focus is. Later, we will add more. But again, we said, you know what? It's not going to be perfect on day one, so we'll do this over time. Yeah. Which, by the way, if you're thinking about, really quickly, Volker, I apologize. If you're thinking about embarking on a project like this, it's okay to not do everything because you won't be able to. You'll fail. I mean, I'll just be very honest with you because we've done it. We've tried to do it several times. You have to identify what is the minimum viable product, yeah? Our MVP. What does that look like? And then how can you build on it over time? Employees are used to that, yeah? They're used to getting updates for their applications on their phones. They're used to getting everything, and it's not fully baked at first. So that's okay. There is no expectation that it has to be perfect on the first day. Yeah.
I hope you can hear me. Sorry for the inconvenience.
You're unmuted.
Perfect. I will come straight to my question. What was the reason why you chosen Google Analytics for analytics?
Sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
I saw that in your slide that you were using Google Analytics basically for collecting the analytic data.
Yeah.
Was there a particular reason for that?
We as a company have used Google Analytics for measuring almost all of our communication channels. So Novartis.com, yeah, we use Google to measure that, as well as like our brand websites, our medicines websites. So it was natural for us to start using it internally. And we have a group of individuals in IT who specialize in it, so they can create custom reports for us. They can, you know, I said, I want to see how many people are clicking these links in our Power Panel because everybody wants their link in there, but, you know, because they think it's important. But I want to see how many people are clicking, actually. I'll tell you if it's important or not, right? So it's one of those things like we needed some special things measured. And so it was easy for us to do that on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to connect to you, Philip, later on. We are using Wisdom as well. We're a construction building company in Vienna. And I think we are going through the same phases of development. And my question was related to if like the Office 365 analytics was not sufficient, but I can understand that you're using Google because you have expertise in your house.
Yeah.
But that's a very good point. Please connect. You can do that, by basically clicking on a person here and then just sending. Sorry, I'm now switching German to English. Sending a direct message to a person. You can open up in the sessions tab your own session and discuss something if you want. So really make use of the whole day, also not just by attending those sessions, which is great, of course, if you're in the session, but also to connecting to others and talking to others. That's a very, very good point. But I wanted to bring in as maybe last question so that we have a little bit time to set up the next, and the next is an open discussion round. It's the panel discussion. So please join the next session then as well. But Natalie was shortly on stage and then we lost you. But your question was related to change management. So what change management things have you implemented?
That's a great question. There are lots of things that are required, but I would say
I think that's almost their own session, maybe the change management.
I was lucky to have dedicated support and dedicated budget for change management and communications, which is a big part of it. You need to give everyone context on why you're doing it, number one, right? Like that's the most important thing. And again, it goes back to what's the value that communicators will see, that regular employees will see, that leaders will see, that salespeople will see. I mean, there's an entire identification of stakeholder groups that you need to think about. That's like step one, right? You also need to, you're going to have people who are saying like, oh, this is like yet another thing I have to do or I have to go to. So you have to be really clear on the value it brings, but then you have to rely on your partners to help make it happen. For example, one Novartis launches when you launch your browser, right? It's not up for debate, right? It is there when you launch your browser. It's the first thing you see. So people can't change that locally. That's not to say that I love to, creating this captive audience, but it does give you that opportunity to, once you get people there, to have them choose and decide. Like I said, pull strategy, right? You want people to decide the types of content they like within reason, because of course everyone needs to know, like, legally required things or COVID, right? There are certain things that everyone needs to see. But if you start doing that, that's the best thing for you to do. And content, again, is key. We wanted communicators to not focus on like, where should I put my communication and how should it be, but rather creating amazing content, looking for great images, creating titles and headlines that are clickable. Yeah, we have a lot of people in comms who, haven't come into 2020 in the modern age and how you get people to click content. It's the same thing you go on BBC or CNN, right? You have to think in that way, and so you have to get people to change what they do. I know this is 3 minutes I'm answering this question. It's a very large topic about this, but it is possible.
Absolutely. And I think we will touch that topic also in the next session, which is then starting at 10, and it's an open discussion on internal comms and future of internal comms. The last question in 30 seconds answered a very easy question, the most easy question ever, is what is the ROI of one Novartis
yes,
platform?
the easiest question of all. Return on investment is we measure it in engagement. So we look at our data and metrics, and we set targets, goals, for how we wanted this to look, how we wanted people to be using it 3 months after launch, 6 months after launch, etc. So of course the metrics are different. But a main piece of our return on investment to get the money to spend to create this, which it took a lot, was to shut down the old. So it's not that you're just creating more content and noise, you're actually taking what was there and removing it. So that was a key piece of it.
Yeah. That was for 30 seconds, really good answer. We had yesterday actually a open room for ROI. I know that Tom Mader is in the room as well. He has a great slide with all the figures you can use to measure engagement and not just page views. Tom, that would be great if you can share that slide. Either just upload it somewhere and put it into the chat, or send it to someone from the Advertera team and we will upload it. That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Philip. I guess many of you will be in the next session as well, which starts in a few minutes. Actually, you will see it then in the session tabs. But the next 9 minutes, I would encourage you to click on the networking tab. I have to check which direction, this direction is it, on the networking tab, and do network with others. And then in a few minutes, the next session will start. So see you all at the next session.
Just one thing really quickly,
so
if you want to connect with me, my profile, I put my LinkedIn link in there. So by all means, please connect with me on LinkedIn and we can, talk. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a great tip for everybody, please put your LinkedIn profile into your Hopin profile so that people can connect. So see you in the next session. And